You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That Syracuse was among the teams that reached out to Miami guard or forward Paul Djobet. And keep in mind, Syracuse still has 3 open scholarships remaining. Now, Mike, the first question I want to ask you about this move is this. Is Syracuse actually interested in Paul Djobet? Because the timing is interesting because they just added Tyler Betsy, who you would think plays the exact same position.
Yeah, so what we don't know is when did this contact or showing of interest happen? It could have been a week and a half ago. It could have been yesterday, anytime in between. So you don't really know 100% when that interest occurred. To your point, it makes sense that he would be someone that they were evaluating among the wing, small forward, combo forward prospects that they were looking at when, the Valencia and Jerry Dang situations kind of fell through. They were another option there, and Tyler Betsy ends up being the guy. It would make sense that this guy would be the one that they'd be looking at as a potential, just given what he's been, solid 3-pointer, decent athlete, 4 starts over 2 seasons, 39% from 3 during that time. Okay rebounder, seems to be a decent defender, but nothing from a statistical state that's going to knock your socks off, right? But someone, again, similar to Tyler Betsy, has that untapped potential that you're hoping he takes a leap, right, for you. To your point, just from a roster construction standpoint, he looks to be more of a 2-3 combo, and they're pretty loaded in the backcourt. So it's hard to see a path for significant minutes there at the 2. At the 3, do you bring him in and he and Tyler Betsy are sort of competing with Nate Kings for the starting spot and then the primary spot that's going to play a good chunk of minutes as well? From a Syracuse perspective, I could see why that would make sense. The more options that you have, then the more likely you are to hit on one of them. But from his perspective, if he has a lot of options, I could see him looking at Syracuse and saying, maybe that's a little too crowded. But we don't know for sure yet. I think we'll see how. But my guess is it was probably one of those situations where they had reached out to do some evaluating prior to Tyler Betsy thing becoming official. The other thing I just want to point out is when you see these lists of has been contacted or has been shown interest by, that can be something as simple as an assistant coach or Alex Klein or whoever calling up, an agency and saying, what's the deal with this kid? Why is he in the portal? What's going on? Or even an assistant coach at the former institution or a former AA coach or someone that they have a good relationship with and they trust and saying, hey, can you tell me what the deal is with this kid? We're looking at all of our options right now. It could just be that. And then nothing materializes. So we'll see if anything ends up coming from this.
All right. Well, one player that is seemingly now back on the open market. Now, he didn't actually leave the open market. Of course, I'm talking about Desmond Claude, but the reason why it seems like he's back is because it looked like him in Florida, it was a done deal. He was going to go to the University of Florida. I can't tell you how many articles were out there from On3 and 24/7 Sports. Desmond Claude, Florida. It's like, yeah, it's a perfect match. It's just going to happen. And all of a sudden, there was a report from yesterday. Nope. UNC. Nope. Kentucky. Looks like they're going to get him. Nope. So is he a viable, realistic option for Syracuse? Obviously, there's the connection there with his mother, but
sure.
Could you see Syracuse actually having interest here, or are they done making these type of moves?
Well, again, from a Syracuse perspective, I don't turn away a talent like Desmond Claude. I know they got Jay. I know George, and I know they've got Kai and Anthony coming in, and they have several that they think very highly of. They think are very talented. But Desmond Claude is again, a very talented basketball player. He's really long, can play the 1 or the 2. He's not a great outside shooter. He's okay, average to below average there, but does so many other things, disruptive defensively. If he said, yeah, I'm willing to come in and battle for playing time at Syracuse, I'm not saying no to him just because you've got a bunch of other good guards. I'm not. That said, some of the rumors, and I don't know how substantiated these are or the veracity of some of them. So it's a little irresponsible on my part to sort of give credence to some rumors that I haven't heard directly whether they're true or not. But some of the rumors are involving NIL situations as why he could be still on the open market or back on the open market, as you said. That some of these situations with the other schools fell through is because perhaps he's asking for more than what they're willing to spend, or they couldn't come to some sort of agreement. If there's any credence to that side of it, then in order for him to come to Syracuse, you would think he'd have to take less money than what he was hoping to get from some of those other schools that caused them to back off, simply because Syracuse already has a lot of money allocated into the backcourt, into other players that they've brought in. So, there's only money to go around. I don't know how it's going to play out, but, it would be, it would certainly make things interesting. And again, he's very, very talented. And he's someone that, because of his length, if Syracuse were to add someone like him, like he could play the 3 in a 3-guard lineup. And so there's a lot of things you could do from a versatility standpoint with your roster. And then you could move Tyler Betsy to the 4. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could do there if you were to add him. And if I'm Syracuse, I'm not saying no to him. If he's willing to come, it's something you can afford, and he's more than happy to compete for those minutes.
I don't even really think he would have to compete, Mike.
Yeah, he would play, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. It's just how much.
Yeah. I think it's more along the lines of, are you okay with not playing point guard? Because you're not moving Nate George off the ball. You can't do that. He's not suited to move off the ball. JJ is already off the ball. So Desmond Claude would be coming here to be the 3. Now, I think he could do it. I definitely think he could. And also, if it really just boils down to a money thing, then really it's just about if they're willing to pay him what he wants or more than what any other school would offer, then he might just take it anyway and not care about what position he's going to play. But yep. Position fit, money. Well, it's probably going to be very, very expensive. But I hope that Syracuse somehow gets in on Desmond Claude here. Mike, who else should be on our radar? What types of moves do you think Syracuse still makes from here on out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the constant messaging you're getting from Syracuse as far as kind of reading between the tea leaves of the moves that they've made and the players are expressing interest in is they're not position specific. So yeah, they've got 3 scholarships available, but they're not saying we're going to use 1 on a center and 2 on forwards, or we need at least 1 guard in those 3. Like, I think they'll take any combination of positions as long as they feel like the players are good enough to help them, whether it's on the court, in practice, combination thereof. So I don't have specific names. Here's my guess as to what they could be looking for. They could be looking for another big. I think you'd prefer to have 3 if you can have 3 centers and 3 without Donnie, because I know there's been some chatter about, well, what if you play him for spurts at the 5 if you're going a little bit smaller, or you want to bring Sadiq in, you want him and Sadiq to play together. That's an option. But yeah, so I could see them potentially looking at bringing in another big. And then, do you try to bring in, going back to the Miami kid again, do you want to bring in another small forward? So you feel like you've got at least 3 guys there that play, maybe a combo forward would fit there as well. But, they've been really good at keeping a lot of these things close to the vest. The Tyler Betsy thing kind of came up out of nowhere. Like, there hadn't been reports of extensive communication or a visit or anything like that. And, it's kind of been that way even with Nate George, right? Like, all of a sudden it was, bam, there's a report that he committed. And there hadn't been reporting that there, Syracuse was strongly involved there, or there were visits or anything like that. So my guess is still stations and evaluations going on behind the scenes. But other things to keep an eye on is, could they go to the international route for a high school prospect to try to fill the back end of the roster, and or look at junior college prospects. There have been several junior college prospects over the last few years that have gone to schools as kind of afterthoughts and have made an impact in one way or another. Don't command a ton from an NIL perspective. They're willing to for minutes to be on a high major roster. So there are some benefits to going after a junior college player or international player, because you can find guys that are okay with the back end of the roster and or okay with their playing time and wouldn't command a ton on the NIL market.